Welcome to part 2 of how to deal with sin in your life. I did mention in the last video that you can't, give power to an inanimate object. Well, let me clarify that. You can give power to anything. However, the only resultant effect therein is, especially to one that is inanimate, is that it comes alive. Therefore, if sin was supposedly inanimate, which it isn't or it wasn't, then once power is given to it, it becomes animate. In other words, alive. So in the olden days, we know that slaves were used as commodities for trade. Some of them were paid with food and shelter, etc. Now, wages are paid when time is completed. Therefore, sin, as a being that it is, faithfully pays its slave workers when their time is completed. Now, this means that when a slave completes the tasks of the master within the allotted period of time, they could get paid for their labor, right? It is the law of the land, so it's not uncommon. God created man who enforces the law of the land. Even God, who is sovereign overall, chose to limit himself to the degree of man's enforcement of that law of the land. Now, since man was clearly embodied together with sin after the fall, sin took man's place or man's will to enforce that detrimental law of the land. Unfortunately, when Adam and Eve fell, mankind opened a portal, for the being sin to enter into the world through disobedience and revelation of the knowledge of good and evil, which you guys already know. Now, therefore, causing us to, literally embody ourselves with sin. It's ridiculous. Now, when you change your, perception of things and the perception of things in your life, you can act right towards them. In other words, when you realize that you're dealing with a live being here, not a verb, your attitude towards it changes. I'm talking about sin. So how does one actually deal with sin? Which is the question that lies in Genesis chapter 4, verse 7, when sin was first mentioned in the book, as I talked about, as a person crouching at the door. Now, you deal with sin by doing well. That is, what does that mean? It means doing what is acceptable and pleasing to your Father, the creator of the whole universe. You do well, things that are pleasing. Now, the question could be, how do I know what is pleasing to my Father? Well, in the book of Hebrews chapter 11, verse 6, the scripture clearly states that without faith, it is impossible to please God. So let us start by understanding what faith is. Now, to understand faith, we must first understand authority. You must know whose you are. Well, thanks for watching. Talk to you on the next video.